Welcome to the Wishful Doing Podcast, where purpose meets power and vision turns into action. I'm your host, Dr. Lozupone, founder of Wishful Doing, and this is the space where bold conversations, unfiltered truths, and transformational stories take center stage. Whether you're leading a team, changing your community, or just trying to lead yourself well, you're in the right place. Let's turn wishful thinking into wishful doing together. On today's very first episode, I am joined by someone who makes wishful doing shine from the inside out. Our incredible program manager, Yoslin Amaya-Hernandez. We're kicking things off with a powerful conversation in honor of Teen Mom Awareness Month. Here's what's wild. Yoslin and I didn't even know this until recently, but we both became pregnant at 16 and had our babies at 17. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on our personal journeys, the support that made all the difference, and what it means to show up as leaders, mothers, and change makers. Get ready for a raw, real, and radically hopeful conversation that proves teen moms aren't statistics. We are success stories in motion. So, thank you, Yoslin. I get to see you pretty often because you work for Wishful Doing, but of course, I am just thrilled that we are able to have our very first podcast together. And it's really interesting. I really wasn't aware of Teen Mom Awareness Month until recently. And because I knew you were a young mom, all of a sudden I was like, you know what? Whereas normally I think this would be a really personal question, I was like, I'm going to ask. I feel like we need to have these types of conversations. And when you shared that you were 16, I was like, oh my gosh, I was 16. That's crazy. Um, so thank you for your willingness to share your story and be vulnerable and, kind of let the audience in a little bit about what the journey has been like. So I know what it was like for me in my household, and I can share that in a little bit, but I'm really curious to know what was your initial reaction when you found out you were pregnant at 16?
Ooh, oh my goodness, that brings me back. And yeah, isn't it so crazy? You and I have known each other since like 2019, and
Yeah,
it's been like what, 6 years now, and we just found out in 2025
yeah,
and I have so much more in common.
yeah. Well, and I think that just sort of goes back to there's still a lot of like hush hush. I don't want to say obviously there's stigma, and I don't think it was the stigma that kept me from asking the question, but I think when you're in that space, there are things that kind of tap into like pain or hurtful stuff, trauma. And it's just kind of like, you know what, we're in the here and now. I'm not going to ask questions that might take somebody back to maybe a time that wasn't all chocolate ponies and butterfly kisses. So yeah, it's crazy that we didn't know that until recently.
Yeah, and I think that at least for me in my perspective, I think like asking someone that question, I feel like it might trigger them and like, are they going to judge me or like why are they asking me that question, right? Um, but to answer your question, so this is actually something that I most people actually don't know is that I was actually pregnant twice at 16.
What? Okay, can you share a little bit more? Would you be willing?
Yes. So the first time that I found out I was pregnant was actually because I was having a medical emergency. And I was at the hospital. I was with my mom, and it was very late at night. It was like midnight, almost 1 a.m. in the morning. And we were at the hospital. And one of the things about growing up in, at least for me, in like a Latino household, was that my mother never sat down and had conversations about sexual reproductive rights or anything like that. And so when I was at the hospital, the doctor asked me and was like, is there a possibility that you could be pregnant? And obviously, my mother sitting across from me, I was like, no.
Yeah, oh my gosh. Like, who's gonna answer that question honestly when your parents in the room?
Yes. And at 16, right? At
Yeah,
16,
no,
what are
no,
you like, how are you going to answer that? Like, how are you going to be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna let my mom know about my sexual life.
no way.
So, um, they ran blood test and a urine test. And about 90 minutes after, they came back inside and they asked my mom to step out. And they're like, we need to have a conversation with her. And that's when like my heart completely dropped because I knew what that meant. I mean, I had not missed my period, like my period, like I had not missed it. So I was like, I'm still waiting for my period to come. And the doctor was like, well, you are in fact pregnant. Your blood test came back positive. Your urine test came back positive. Um, and we just want to know, like, is there a real possibility that you could be pregnant? Otherwise, like, we need to figure out if there's any, like, something else is wrong that you're showing up as pregnant. And, at that moment, I broke down crying and I said yes. And the doctor was like, okay, do you want to tell your mom or do you want me to tell your mom? And I said, no, no, no. Like, I'm gonna tell her. And they stepped out, they let my mom back in. And my mom was like, what's happening? I was like, oh no, they just wanted to talk to me about, my blood test and just ask me personal questions. And I dragged it on for 30 minutes. I sat there in silence, just kind of like processing.
Still there in the office?
Yeah, in the hospital. I was in a
In the
hospital.
hospital. That's right. It was a medical emergency.
Yes.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so,
So you're holding this in.
yes. And I'm sitting there for 30 minutes, just like, first of all, like trying to process all of this, right? I'm processing this all at 16. Because first of all, my mom we're five kids. There's five kids. And my youngest sister at the time was 1 years old.
Hmm.
And so I'm just sitting there like processing it all. Like, how do I tell her? Like, how do I just come out and say this? And so 30 minutes passed, which felt like 5 minutes because the doctor came back in and the nurse was with him and was like, okay, so did you tell her? And even though my mom, um, her first language is Spanish, she can understand English.
Mm-hmm.
So she looks at me and she tells me in Spanish, she's like, El que me dijiste, which means what did you say?
Hmm.
What do you need to tell me?
Hmm.
Um, and that's when I break down crying and all I said to her was like, I'm sorry. Like I'm so sorry. And I couldn't say anything else. And so I just looked at the doctor. And when the doctor saw that I couldn't say anything,
Hmm.
he tells her, she was like, well, your daughter's pregnant. We're going to go ahead and do a sonogram to check how far along she is. And based on how far along she is, then we will determine what her medical needs and her medical care will be because now there is a pregnancy and we cannot do things how we were normally going to do them.
Right.
And in that moment, the moment that the doctor left, my mother left.
Oh, brutal.
She stepped out.
Ooh.
She asked no questions. She stepped outside.
She was upset.
She was
She
very,
was upset. Yeah.
and she came back 5 minutes later, which was like now those 5 minutes felt like the longest five
Oh,
minutes.
I can imagine.
Those felt like the longest 5 minutes. And she came back. And mind you, like to her knowledge, I was not dating. I didn't have a
Mm.
boyfriend. I didn't have anyone. And so she kept asking, she was like, who? Who?
Oof.
And I was like, I will tell you, but just give me a moment. Like I need to process this. And she was like, how? And the teenager in me snapped back and I was like, what do you mean how? I was like, you have five kids.
Ay, 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 ay. Yoslin. Yoslin.
Not making the situation
Yeah.
better.
No, you're not helping the situation.
No. And so, she stepped out again, but this time she was gone for about 15 minutes. And at that time, I knew that she was calling my grandmother back home.
Hmm.
And I think that my grandmother had already gone through this because my aunt was a teen mom.
Okay.
And so I think that my grandmother, she regretted how she had handled my aunt's teen pregnancy.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so this is bringing in now a fresh perspective. All
Yeah.
right.
And so 15 minutes later when she came in, um, I think my mother, like there was like the conversation with my grandmother, like there was a switch.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother came back inside and she was apologizing. And she was like, I think I know how this happened. And I'm sorry this happened. But your grandmother says that she hopes it's a girl.
Oh my goodness.
And so I was like, okay. At that time, I still had not told her who the father was.
Okay.
And now at this point, it was 3 in the morning. I got the medical procedure that I needed to have done,
Mm-hmm.
and we went home at 4 in the morning. My mother needed to be at her job because she worked at McDonald's as a manager, and she was the person who opened up the restaurant, got everything prepped. This was a Sunday. She needed to be at work at 4:30 in the morning, and we were leaving the hospital at 4. On the ride home, I told her who the father was, and it was one of my coworkers who she was going to be working with in about 4 hours.
My gosh.
So not only has she not slept all day,
Oh my
day,
goodness.
um, but then
Didn't want to sit on that for a little while longer.
was she was gonna have to come face to face and act like nothing was wrong
Right.
with who the father of her grandchild was going to be.
Oh my gosh.
And so I had texted him, and he knew who was, my now husband. So he knew, he was fully well aware.
Mm-hmm.
And so he knew what he was getting into when he got into work
Oh.
at 8 in the morning. And he recalls, and he's like, the tension was there between your mom and I, but nobody else could figure it out. Like nobody else knew
Mm-hmm.
looking around it. Um, and so it was like, okay, the anger sort of like had reignited.
Yeah.
And she got home during lunchtime. She was like, okay, you and I need to have a talk.
Mm-hmm.
And then we sat down and had like this full adult talk of, okay, now I'm no longer doing this for you. I'm no longer doing this for you. You're no longer getting this benefit from me. You have to pay for your own rent. Like, what are your plans? Like, what are you going to do? Are you going to move in with him? Are you going to move out? Or is he going to move in? And it was like all these questions were coming. And I was like, I've known for about 8 hours. Like, I've known as long as you have. I don't have the answers. He was at work. I'm pretty sure like he doesn't even know like the answers to these questions. We haven't had a chance to even have a conversation about what the next steps are.
Right.
Um, and so then we ultimately made a decision that I was going to move in with him because if we wanted to raise a child, I was like, I'm not going to do it in a separate household. I was like, I'm just not going to do it in a separate household because then the full responsibility is just going to be on me. Um, like I'll still be doing the night shift, I'll still be doing all of that, and I just can't do that. So we agreed to move in.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Did you ever consider any other options other than keeping the baby? Were other options ever put out there?
Yes. So I did not consider adoption. I will tell you that. But
Hmm.
when the topic of abortion came, that was something that I was considering. Now, here was sort of kind of like where the issues came at play
Hmm.
was that I did not have access to health insurance.
Okay.
And so, without access to health insurance, it also meant that I had to pay out of pocket.
Hmm.
And it was something that I was contemplating against. But I also wanted to get, his perspective on like what he was comfortable with. And when he was like, you do what is best for you,
Hmm.
then I was like, okay. And I sat with the topic and I sat with abortion for a really good minute.
Okay.
And I sat with it for about, I think I sat with it for about a week.
Got it.
Sat with it for about a week. And then I think it was also in a way because my grandmother was a Catholic and
Hmm.
is a Catholic, and my mother grew up in that way. I was like, I don't, I don't want to disappoint my grandmother.
Right.
I was like, I don't
So
want to disappoint her.
so it sounds like this is where you and I are kind of I'm going to share a little bit about my story too, where it was you that was contemplating your options. It wasn't somebody sort of imposing or trying to like say, "Hey, you have all these options." Um, so similar to you, I got the news in a doctor's office. I honestly, it was so traumatizing. I don't really recall a lot of the details. I know that I was there. I I can't remember if my mother was there or not. I don't think so. I think my partner at the time was, and I think I actually had to go home and tell my mother, which was terrifying, of course. What's interesting is, and I'll be really transparent, this is still a very contentious issue for my family. But my honest recollection of it is immediately it was like, you cannot have this baby. And so it was like abortion was kind of like the first thing that was put out there. Like the decision making wasn't even in my hands at this point, right? It was like, this is what you're gonna do. And I was like, okay, what I took from that conversation was they don't think that I am responsible enough, that I have any business raising a child. I'm still a child. And so I started considering, like, but what could be other options? And that's where I started considering adoption. Obviously, this is not a conversation about reproductive rights. And we're not going to get into that today. We can save that conversation for another time. But what I can share is that for me, because everybody should be able to make decisions that are best for them. For me, I knew I just could not have an abortion. I knew that I could not do that. It was not for me. And I just didn't think I could live the rest of my life knowing that I had a child out there and then carrying the child for everything that entails getting the child through birthing. I
Mhm.
was like, I don't think I can go through all of that and then know then that I'm never going to see this child again. It was a very painful, traumatic time for me. And I made the decision against the wishes of everybody in my family that I was going to keep the child. Um, so it's really interesting to hear that obviously both our moms were both Latina. I mean, like anybody that's Latino out there, we don't have to say it. And if you're not, find a Latino friend and ask them.
Yeah.
But obviously, both moms disappointed, upset. But what's really interesting is that very quickly, you started to get a little, obviously things were still contentious and it's like, well, you're not going to be living here and you're going to have to figure out some things. I mean, obviously all of that is still happening, but you're having at least a support where it's like, okay, so you're going to raise this child versus I was having an experience of like backlash. Like, you're ruining your life. What are you doing? This is clearly the wrong thing to do. What if, your child is born with all sorts of needs that, you can't even take care of yourself? How are you going to take care of a child? And especially if you have a child that has special needs or a disability or an illness, like, what are you doing? So the fight was constant the entire 9 months.
Yeah. And I mean, well, my mom wasn't very, I'll say that my mom wasn't very supportive about like an abortion. My mom was like, no, like you wanted to have sex, then you gotta live with it. She was like, I have raised all five kids. And that's when like my snarkiness came in and I was like, no, I've raised them for you.
Mm. Ay, ay, ay.
Um,
Yoslin.
um,
You're so feisty, girl. You're so
it,
feisty.
it created a lot of contentiousness in the household because
Yeah.
I think that's part of the reason why they also felt like they could not pressure me into any choice
Hmm.
because they knew what I was like. Like they knew that
Sure.
I was always going to fight back. Like they knew that I was, and my mother always said that I did everything to piss her off. Like
Yeah.
she told me to go right, I would go left.
Yeah. I feel like I was the same way, but I think I knew what my limit was, but that again, that's a whole other story for another time. We've reached the end of part 1 of this conversation, but trust, we're just getting started. In the next episode, we'll pick up right where we left off, diving deeper into the real challenges we faced as teen moms and the support systems that helped us rise anyway. If this first chapter moved you, don't miss part 2 of our Teen Mom Awareness series. Your next dose of real talk and radical resilience is just a play button away. Until next time, keep rising and keep doing.